Hello, true believers. This is Doc Hogg, and welcome to episode 59 of Comics and Variety. If you like this channel, please do subscribe. Hit the notification bell to be notified when I post new videos. And for the sake of YouTube's search algorithm, please do hit the like button. Looking at Amazing Spider-Man number 27, let me start by saying that there is potentially, well, not even potentially, I mean, there is a very good story here. The plot is of this comic is pretty easy to summarize. It's the Syndicate, a gang of female supervillains, including Beetle, Lady Octopus, Scorpia, White Rabbit, Trapster, and Elektra, want to get revenge on the villain Boomerang, and he must team up with Spider-Man to stop them. So as far as the plot's concerned, that's a good start. What's even better is that while they win the fight with Boomerang and Spider-Man, they don't win it easily. So, they're not Mary Sue's. But they do have a very good reason for winning. They have been training together while Spidey and Boomerang have no experience fighting as a team. Makes sense. And finally, there is this really good twist at the end. One of the female supervillains, Beetle, is having a love affair with Peter Parker's roommate, Randy. And that sets up the next issue very nicely. But I doubt that I'm going to pick up the next issue. Why? Because I don't like being lectured about toxic masculinity in my comic books. I've got Anna Kasparian videos for that. And the lecture on toxic masculinity starts off on page 4. And really page 2 if you don't count the intro page and the advertisement. For example, here is Boomerang being condescending to the female group, calling them an all-girl gang. Not a female gang or a whammon gang, but girl gang. On the next page, he refers to Elektra as Elektra, but she wants to be called Electro. What can you say? It's just a good thing that she wasn't transgender, or Boomerang would have had his Twitter account suspended. Next, Boomerang tries to tell them how to properly pull off a heist, which of course is not helpful advice. Why? Because it's mansplaining. Now, Boomerang has done evil against Beetle and Elektra, but he doesn't understand why some of the other girl villains are out to get him. Well, here is the explanation. Really? That's the reason? Because he hit on them in a bar? I mean, it's a bar. Bars generally serve two purposes. The first is to serve alcohol, sometimes lots and lots of alcohol.
Jalisco no te rajes, mesala del amor. Cantor, cantalor, abril todo el pecho, echar ese grito, que lindo es Jalisco.
And the second is to bring people together to socialize, like men and women together to socialize. And yes, that means men are going to hit on women. Now, that doesn't mean that the passes that men make can't be awkward or creepy or just generally unwelcome. Of course they can. Now, do men sometimes take it too far at bars, constantly hitting on women after women have dropped every hint that they're not interested? Yes. And do they sometimes do worse? Yes. But Boomerang hasn't done any of that here. And so after the girls capture Boomerang, they are celebrating and they ask Elektra for her ideas about, what they should do with him. And she's stunned because, as she says, quote, nobody ever really asked me for my ideas before. And as we learn in the next panel, all the men that, she's ever worked with, none of them have ever listened to her. They just want to give her orders. And then on the next page, they are like, yeah, that's what the Syndicate is all about, because they all have stories like Elektra's. That includes White Rabbit, who feels bad because when she tries to murder the superhero Hawkeye, he just tries to hit on her. And well, that sounds about right to me, because patriarchy. I mean, it's not like there have ever been any women CEOs, or that women are over 50% of college students, or that men ever listen to women. No, not at all.
I'll just finish by saying that the vice president at Marvel, Sana Amanat,
should tell the writer of Amazing Spider-Man that if you want to do a story about toxic masculinity, you might try showing the reader, as in show, don't tell. Explain to the writer that you don't tell the reader, and you certainly don't shove it in the reader's face. But that would be futile because the writer is Nick Spencer, a man. And because of that, there is no way he would ever listen to Sama's ideas. Alrighty, that music means that it is time for Hogg's Headlines, all the news that Doc Hogg wants to report on. Dateline, climate change protests. Okay, so let's talk about the climate strike that took place about a week ago Monday, September the 23rd. These protesters were all over Washington, D.C. the weekend prior to that Monday, but it was Monday morning that they were trying and succeeding to block traffic. Here is one picture that I took of them while I was driving for Uber.
Just to be clear, the protesters are more toward the background. Obviously, they are not the pedestrians that are in the foreground.
This is around K and 17th, and there were other places. They partially blocked Independence. They also blocked either 16th or 15th Street around M. I couldn't take pictures of most of them because I was driving. Now, surely they can protest all they want. They are free to do that. What they should not be free to do is deny freedom to the rest of us. And in particular, they really shouldn't be able to do this.
We're here for climate justice, honey. You gonna join?
God, would you want that just coming right out and sticking it to you in front of your car? But more seriously, the roads are supposed to be there to drive on. The roads are not for protesting. For protesting, there are sidewalks, parks, etc. And when these clowns shut down roads, they harm the rest of us. I was on the road trying to drop off a passenger, which means that I can do fewer rides, which means that I make less money. My passenger had to end his ride a little early and walk to his destination because it was going to take too long to drive him there because of these protesters blocking the roads. Now, not only is that an inconvenience to him, he's probably a bit safer going in my car to the destination than walking. Yeah, maybe it's not a big deal, but it's not nothing either. And then there are the food trucks that will have to relocate, which means that some of their usual customers won't be able to find them, and that will mean less business for them. And given how competitive the food industry is, the loss of even a small bit of revenue can mean a lot. And if you don't think that matters, what about an ambulance that is trying to take someone who is very ill or gravely injured to the hospital when minutes, maybe seconds count? If that person really needs to get to a hospital and now the ambulance has to take a longer route and deal with even bigger traffic jams because of these protesters, it could easily be the difference between life and death. The wonderful economist Thomas Sowell likes to call this spoiled brat politics, by which he means denying others the same rights you claim for yourself. In this case, these climate strikers claim the right to use the roads and deny the rest of us that right. And again, the roads are not meant for people to stand in the middle of them. Just about any road is there to make it more efficient for people with vehicles to go from point A to point B. Now, as I was driving out of D.C., I saw a police officer who had cordoned off a street, and I couldn't help myself. I rolled down my window and said, could you please tell the powers that be that I think you should be arresting the protesters? He smiled and said, okay. I thanked him for doing his job and got back to the traffic jam that I was in. But, the authorities seem to have given up on arresting people who break the law when they are, doing so for some sort of political cause. And who can blame them? Who can blame the police for just redirecting traffic? I mean, it's easier to do. Chances are no police officer is going to get hurt doing that, as opposed to arresting protesters who sometimes get violent. And if you just redirect traffic, the media won't have any images to show on TV of supposedly peaceful protesters being arrested by the police. Hence, there is no PR nightmare for police departments. So, to avoid PR nightmares, just redirect traffic. Then there isn't the frustration of putting these people in a holding cell and then watching a judge give them a slap on the wrist. So, like I said, redirect traffic. In summary, we've taken the path of least resistance, and in doing so, we've given in to spoiled brat politics. And on that happy note, have a very nice day.
Don't worry about the haters, honey.